Last week, I heard from 3 former drivers of Metro Limousine service. They told me the service is contracted by the city to take airport passengers to businesses or hotels only. They are not to pick up or deliver passengers to private residences. But the 3 alleged they were ordered to do that by the service manager, Pete Cox. They also alleged the female drivers were sexually harassed by Cox.
There has been numerous girls, and maybe they'll last 3 days to a month or 2 months, and then out you go, if you don't do what he says.
Well, In Your Corner called Metro and asked for a limousine pickup at a private residence in Nichols Hills. They said they would send a car. I was waiting with a hidden camera and microphone. The limousine arrived in violation with their city contract. The female driver said she had been ordered to make the pickup, that it is a common practice. I approached the limousine manager, Pete Cox, and asked him about the pickup. In his record book, he had the address down as the county office building, not a private home in Nichols Hills. And he denied that he ordered residential pickups. He also denied charges of sexual harassment of female employees, saying those making the charges were out to get him because he fired them for not doing their jobs. However, he would not allow me to look at the record book, which lists addresses for passenger pickup and delivery. Could we look at the addresses on your book?
Well, I couldn't do it without permission from Larry Lucas.
Well, it's city contract. Is there any reason that we couldn't look at it?
Well, it's not without permission from my...
In Your Corner learned that the limousine contract with Oklahoma City not only specifies where passengers are picked up and delivered, it also tells what routes they can take. Attorney Mark Schwartz, head of the Oklahoma City Traffic Commission, says that is to prevent competition with taxi drivers.
Correct. If the limousine companies want to be able to go to residential areas, then they ought to come in and apply for a license to be a taxi. If they meet the qualifications, then they can be a taxi license. Otherwise, I think they should go along with their contract, and it would seem to me, as it comes under the airport trust, I believe Leroy Hansen, director of the airports, I'm quite certain that he will make sure that that contract is followed as required by city ordinance and by the contract that was entered into by the trust and the limousine services.
I asked Airport Administrator Leroy Hansen about the city contracted limousine service and its violation of that contract.
Oh, I was shocked. I happened to be watching Channel 4, and suddenly In Your Corner came about, and there was quite a discussion on this matter. And what was disturbing to me was the fact that no one, the drivers or anyone on the petition, had informed this office, who is responsible for administering that contract, as to what was going on or what is alleged to have gone on. So I was really shocked. As a matter of fact, after briefly looking at these allegations, I asked our police division this morning to make a complete and thorough investigation into this matter so that we can report our findings to the Airport Trust.
Hansen said he had reprimanded the service 3 or 4 times in the past about making residential runs. He had been assured it was stopped. He said the matters would be looked into before the limousine service contract would be considered for renewal. And it is up for renewal. The Airport Trust initially agreed to renew their service, but the petition by former drivers and taxi drivers to have manager Pete Cox removed will be examined before the trust makes a decision to renew or to take bids from other limousine companies. Early last month, the Gomez called In Your Corner to have a look at their wedding portraits. They had them taken by a local photographer working for Photo World Studios in San Antonio. The picture session was held in the Ramada Inn. When the pictures were sent to them, Reuben and Patricia couldn't believe they were the same ones they had picked out from the slides they were shown.
If that's $118 worth, I don't think it's very professional takeingly done, because I think we should at least deserve better quality than that.
Rubin said the photos were too dark, the subject off-center in some, and some a little fuzzy, out of focus. He had contacted the photo company in San Antonio, but they said nothing could be done. In Your Corner called Photo World, and they would not agree to a refund, but said they would take the pictures over at no charge. Well, the Gomez agreed to try one more time before they went to small claims court over the issue. Well, the pictures arrived this week, and they look very good. What do you think about the new pictures as compared to the older ones?
We're very pleased right now what we got back, and it's a big relief because it's all over with. And they expressed their, sorrow because we went through so much problems with them, and they said it was, they'll set us down, take a pictures, and, we'll get them a real good deal out of it because of all the problems we had, so.
Rubin said they also got some response from the owner of Photo World in San Antonio through the Better Business Bureau.
He was kind of upset because of all the hassles we put him through and stuff, and he said that it was not right for the consumer to tell the companies how to run their business, which I wasn't. I was just only expressing my disappointment and, that I didn't like the pictures and I wanted my money back.
Well, Rubin and Patricia are happy with the new pictures now. Otherwise, it would have been $118 down the drain at a time when they'd just been married and both laid off from the General Motors plant. And In Your Corner is still following the story concerning the city-contracted airport limousine service. Several former drivers told In Your Corner the city contract only allows the limousines to provide service to hotels and other businesses, not private residences, as the taxis do. They said that rule was being violated. In Your Corner found they were right. We called 2 times for a pickup at a private residence and were told a car would be sent. I waited for a limousine with a hidden camera in Nichols Hills when the car arrived. The driver alleged they were told to make such pickups by manager Pete Cox, as the others had alleged. Pete Cox denied the allegations but would not show me his record book. He also denied allegations of sexual harassment made by former lady drivers. Since that story aired, I've been contacted by 3 other former women drivers making similar allegations that they were offered money for sex. Cox claims the drivers did not do their jobs and are seeking revenge because he fired them. However, several women allege they quit because after their refusal of sexual advances, they were given unworkable schedules or were given routes on which they could not make enough money. Those charges have been given to the State Human Rights Commission. The other charges of contract violations are being investigated by the airport police, according to Airport Director Leroy Hansen and City Manager Scott Johnson. A report is to be given to the City Council next Tuesday. All right. Andrew Lester is retired from teaching in California. Now he's back in his native Oklahoma and hopes to stay here, working on his Americana series of sculptures. He showed us a few of the collection. For example, Bill Pickett. He said OSU's Pistol Pete was based on this character. Another is his Trail of Tears Madonna and many more. Lester has donated many pieces of his work, some to his alma mater, Oklahoma State University. And he donated a bust of Jim Thorpe to our state capitol, shown to me today by Richard Thorpe. However, Andrew Lester's problem involves 4 other busts he sculpted back in California. The 4 busts represent the history of the San Francisco Police Department. He began them over 10 years ago.
The police officers in the line of duty on the street wanted it done. I went to them with the idea that they ought to have a memorial like Los Angeles. And Los Angeles had made slabs like geometric shapes and very impersonal. They didn't like them. And they said, we want something personal. I said, okay, would you like me to pick out the ethnic groups and the years they came in? And they said, yes. So I made a U.S. Deputy Marshal to represent the 49ers Gold Rush days to 1900s. And then I picked photographs of the officers and made prototypes of them. And I picked Irishmen for the 1920s and 30s. Then I picked second-generation Italians for the 30s and 40s and part of the 50s. Then I picked a black for the 1950s and 60s.
Okay. Now, did somebody commission that or say, yes, let's...
Yes, let's do it. And they said the Art Commission will pay for it. But the Art Commission had already bought pictures to put in their offices, and the officers didn't like them because they were modernistic. And they wanted to give me some money at one time, but I had this accident, and I wasn't able to communicate with them. You know, the officers, I think, were going to do it. But now after 10 years, I want to donate it. I just don't want to fuss around about money anymore.
Andrew's had some problems since he was involved in a head-on automobile collision 10 years ago. The resulting brain damage caused him to lose his memory, and he had to learn all over again. He just remembered about those sculptures recently and is willing now to donate them to San Francisco's police department, where he says they belong, and he asked us to help. We learned that the 4 busts are stored in the Monterey, California Sculpture Center. The proprietor there remembered about them, but I didn't have as much luck with the city officials of San Francisco. In 10 years' time, there have been several changeovers in city and police personnel. Well, after continuous phone calls, I found an older police officer who remembered some of the events of that time. He is now in the process of finding older members of San Francisco's Police Association who might recall a move to have those sculptures done.
Well, we do plan to create a very strong public protection division, which frankly will include utility protection, environmental protection, as well as consumer protection. And the consumer protection division will be, I guess, in a way of speaking, a consumer business protection division. I mean, to the extent we're going to try to protect the legitimate businessman and the consumer from the huckster, the shyster, the con man, or, you know, the illegitimate fly-by-night business type. We want to develop a meaningful division with a hotline where you can call directly to the Consumer Protection Division, easily accessible. We want to have investigators available, and we're going to move in the direction of volunteers real strongly. I want to get some of the energy and idealism of young law students, but I also want some of the wisdom and experience of some gray hair, some senior citizens, of what I call gray panthers.
Mike Turpin is a former Muskogee County District Attorney who is familiar, he says, with consumer ripoffs. He's fought them before and intends to continue that fight from the state capitol. He says Oklahoma's prosperity makes it a target for ripoffs.
I've always noticed a direct relationship between the crime rate and the prime rate. And that sounds a little bit silly, but as the prime rate goes up and money gets tight and business gets bad and they start laying people off, I notice an increased activity in the crime rate, particularly this kind of crime, particularly bogus checks and shoplifting and property theft and fraudulent schemes where somebody's trying to get rich quick, where somebody's trying to make a buck off of somebody else's vulnerability. And I see a lot of it right now. I don't know if it's, the current economic times or what, but it seems to kind of correlate. As I said, as the prime rate goes up, the crime rate goes up, particularly in this area a little bit. People start trying to rip people off and trying to get something for nothing.
Turpin intends to work cooperatively with all levels of government, those above and below him, so that citizens, even in the outlying areas of the state, still have consumer protection.
If it looks like a misdemeanor felony, I think we've got to, at that point, have a good relationship, a good working relationship out of the Attorney General's office with the local authorities and solicit their help for this citizen in their community. And I think they're going to be responsive. I think a lot of it is a matter of communication.
Most consumer laws fall under civil law rather than criminal law. Therefore, it's up to the citizen himself to hire an attorney or go to small claims court to fight consumer ripoffs. But Turpin says there is action that his office can take, and we'll hear about that on tomorrow's In Your Corner. When Muskogee County District Attorney Mike Turpin campaigned for State Attorney General, one of the promises he made was to set up a strong consumer protection division in his office. In our interview yesterday, Turpin said he would set up a consumer hotline and investigators to protect honest Oklahomans from fraud, fly-by-night businesses, and con men. He said he would do it partially with volunteers, law students, and senior citizens, plus the cooperation of local law enforcement agencies around the state. But most consumer laws are civil laws in which the consumer has to fight for his rights himself or with the aid of an attorney. How can the Attorney General take action in these cases, since many consumer violations are not under criminal law?
It can't be worked out by one of our consumer mediators, working between the two particular parties, well, then perhaps if it is a fraudulent scheme, bringing an injunction. I mean, our office can literally bring the injunction. We have the ability to go into court and bring an injunction and stop the particular, the particular fraudulent scheme, whatever is going on. Now, if you're looking at a situation where a person's blown through the state or blown through town with a home improvement fraud that he never came back and delivered on, well, then I think we're looking at the possibility of a felony situation, obtaining money by false pretenses. You have to get a felony warrant out, and, they can run but they can't hide, and would have a warrant out for their arrest. But we can do all that through the Attorney General's office and through the district attorney's offices of the state of Oklahoma.
I cited cases of consumer ripoff in Oklahoma from businesses located in other states. Those are particularly hard to solve, but Turpin says his consumer efforts will cross state lines.
Oh, I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, I think we have problems where people blow in that are ostensibly legitimate business or apparently legitimate business, and it turns out that they're underfinanced, they're undercapitalized, and it turns into, once again, a big consumer ripoff. We had some problems like that with the health spas. You have problems like that, frankly, with a lot of these pyramid games and pyramid sales. If there's a product involved, that's one thing, but if there's no product involved and it becomes a human chain letter, just a pyramid to bring more and more people into things, I think we're going to have to take a strong stand against that sort of thing. And as Attorney General, we'll be prepared to cross state lines and go do what we have to do to get injunctive relief or perhaps prosecution in another state. I don't believe that crime stops at the county line or at the state boundary. And a lot of times it's going to take a cooperative effort, with officials in other states. I don't think there's any question about that, and we're prepared to do that.
In addition, Turpin says the Attorney General's office will keep a watchful eye on utilities in the state for the consumer's benefit and will listen to citizen complaints. In Your Corner, we'll let you know when the Attorney General's consumer hotline goes into action. Last Wednesday, In Your Corner responded to a call for help from Josie Moore. You may recall that Josie and her two children, Sammy and Catherine, were facing a bleak Thanksgiving. Josie wanted to have a Thanksgiving at home for her two children, but had no stove and a broken hot water heater as well. So that's electric wok, and you heat water in there to bathe the kids.
Yes, sir.
I see.
It comes in handy, I'll tell you. When that went out, I was really nervous.
But it must take a little bit of work to get enough hot water that way.
It takes quite a while.
Josie said her husband had left them some time ago. She thought she had her house sold, so she sold her stove too. But the buyer of the house backed out, so she was still in the house with no stove, no hot water, and no food.
I got a little bit down today because it was getting so near to Thanksgiving, and I asked God, I said, God, you got to give me the faith because I can feel being drained out of me. And I said, please let something happen. And I called you, and I really, in a million years, I never thought you would answer.
Well, a lot of viewers responded to help Josie. From the business community, Wyatt's Cafeteria donated a pre-cooked Thanksgiving dinner big enough for 12 people. Josie said she could heat it next door and feed the children at home for Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
You kids like turkey?
Yeah.
Do you? Makes you hungry already, huh?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Pumpkin pie.
That's Sammy's favorite.
Is that your favorite, Sammy?
Yeah.
Well, after we aired that story, our viewers responded with offers of stoves and a hot water heater, as well as money. We visited Josie today to see how Thanksgiving worked out. Lonnie Friel of the Sunline Corporation called from Elk City to donate a brand new gas range and a brand new hot water heater. A plumber who wanted to remain anonymous came in and hooked up the heater, so Josie is now able to cook at home and have hot water as well. You still have some turkey so you can heat it now.
Oh, yes. It's beautiful just to be able to stick it in there and warm it up, and the children, they get a hot meal, and that's what counts.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate it. It wasn't from you and people who really responded to it.
They were real good, too.
Oh, yes, they were, and I appreciate it. And I want to say God bless to everybody.
Well, that's quite all right. Now you won't have to use the electric wok to heat water and wash
Amen to that. To be able to give the kids their bath, that's the first thing they wanted was their bath.
Yeah.
They said, Mom, I want to get in the bathtub. And then they wanted the food. They couldn't make up their mind which one they wanted first.
Yeah.
They were the happiest bunch of kids you ever seen in your life.
Oh, didn't I went to visit Janie after a concerned neighbor, Bob Garcia, called In Your Corner. Janie's immediate problem was that her natural gas had been shut off. She had no heat and was cooking for her and her 5 children on a single-burner electric hot plate donated by a neighbor. Another problem was that Janie, who is now divorced, is expecting a 6th child and is 2 weeks overdue on its delivery. Janie has not worked during the last stages of her pregnancy and is on welfare, but is not able to pay her gas bill.
Well, I had to have my gas turned on here, you know, and I didn't have the money, and I went down there and I told them, you know, and then, you know, they needed the ID card, and I gave them my name, you know, from where I used to live before, and the bill come up from the bill from the last place where I lived at. So that's where it's $300 that I'm behind on.
And your
And
last
they won't turn
part?
it on here until I have the whole bill paid up.
I see. Do they know your financial situation and the amount of children?
I explained to them, and I told them that I was expecting the kids that I had, you know, and all this and that, you know, by Christmas. I said no. So I would have to pay the whole thing out before they would turn the gas on.
On my initial check with officials at Oklahoma Natural Gas, I was informed someone had turned Janie's gas on illegally at her new apartment. That is considered stealing, so they removed the gas meter. Janie needed $492 to settle with ONG. However, they would turn it on for less. Well, after that story aired, In Your Corner viewers responded in numbers, offering to help. Black Cat at the Oklahoma City Farmers Market pitched in again for In Your Corner.
Well, Brad, I'd like to donate 100-pound potatoes, box of good, delicious apples, box of oranges, and 24-pound candy canes, and a few pinto beans to go with this.
Yeah.
And it's my Christmas gift to these people.
We loaded up the goods at Zach's Produce. In the meantime, 2 anonymous donors had given us some cash to help get Janie's gas turned back on. One retired gentleman donated $100 plus sacks of beans, molasses, and honey, saying that he had been through some rough times himself. A member of an oil-related business also said he had seen some rough times in his life and was now able to help somebody like Janie Bordeo. He donated $300. So I put the total of $400 down on Janie's gas bill. Officials of ONG said that although she needed another $92, they would go ahead and turn her gas back on so she'd have heat for her family and her new baby. Well, we surprised Janie that afternoon delivering a carload of produce to her home in a drizzling rain. The Garcia family helped carry in the 100 pounds of potatoes, along with boxes of apples, oranges, beans, and candy canes for the kids. Well, Janie was just about speechless when she found out so many people wanted to help her. And while she was saying thanks to everyone, ONG arrived to put her gas meter back in and turn on the heat. So when that overdue baby arrives, it'll come home to a warm apartment. This closed store in downtown Oklahoma City will be open for Christmas shopping 3 days this month, December 14th, 15th, and 16th. The shoppers will be a special clientele with references from the Community Action Program, the Department of Human Services, and the Catholic Social Ministries. The clientele are poverty-level families and senior citizens who may be having a tough time of it in today's economy, but they will be able to afford to shop here at the Christmas Connection.
They pay $1 per family member to shop and then can come through, and it gives them the dignity of selecting their own Christmas gifts and being able to pay a little something for it. We average giving $200 worth of merchandise to each family, but it's based on how many people are in their family, so that will vary by how large a family it is.
Vicki says there are high schools and churches conducting drives to bring in more new or nearly new merchandise. Some comes from area merchants and some comes from private residents, but more is needed and more volunteers are needed to help with the project. Barbara Fagan of the Community Action Program started the Christmas Connection last year, and it was very successful. They're hoping for a repeat this year. And it's all done with unpaid volunteers, and it's a community effort. Contributions of food and clothing come from businesses and individuals because the sponsoring agencies do not have the budget to finance such a shopping spree. If you can help, call the Christmas Connection at 524-3211. Now, looking back on another In Your Corner story, more good news for Janie Bordeo and her family. Janie was referred to In Your Corner when she could not pay off her gas bill. She was divorced, pregnant, and already has 5 children. Her gas bill will soon be all paid off. The last installment was given us by Tom Fenimore of Colonel Corn, so Janie will soon be cleared of a $492 gas bill, and now her heat is back on. In Your Corner also heard from Lillian Firestone, whose family also wanted to help out Janie. They contributed a carload of toys from Santa Claus for the Bordeo children, who range in age from 17 down to age 2. And there will be several gifts for the new baby who is expected any time now. We delivered the toys and clothes from the Firestones to an excited Tim Bordeo. Christmas is looking brighter for his family each day. This is the Old Store, a furniture store started by Duke Denton and Jim Flutie. They own the business, but not the building. Bud Mathis owns the building and leases it to Denton and Flutie. He helped them get their furniture store started there, but says that's all he's had to do with the business. Now Bud wants the property back because the store is in bankruptcy, a violation of their lease, he says.
The terms of the lease are being violated in the point of that they haven't been paying their accounts payable. There's several clauses in the lease that the courts are aware of that have been in violation. And I cannot get an answer on when I can regain my property back, either through sales results or Flutie Denton and Associates. And so far, I've been unable to get that answer from the court.
Bud says the bankruptcy court, Judge Klein, signed the order. He is now retired. Bud's tried to get the court to give him possession of his property, but was denied despite the terms of his lease. He fears the bankruptcy damages the reputation of his property, and he's not even certain when he can get his property back. The sale is being handled by another company hired by Denton and Flutie called Sales Results Incorporated. They are paying the rent. Something else that bothers Bud is that Sales Results is bringing in new furniture for the sale while they are advertising a court-ordered liquidation sale of their inventory.
I don't have a lease with Sales Results. Sales Results is the one that's holding the sale. It's being advertised as a $3 million sale. And as you know, I've showed you copies of their original inventory that shows less than $500,000. And they're promoting it as a $3 million liquidation sale. And, I just think it's important that the public know that all that's not true.
Here's what Bud is talking about. He says the Denton Flutie list of assets shows under $500,000 inventory of furniture, but their advertisements say liquidating entire furniture inventory. Right beside it, it says $3 million worth of inventory must be sold. At the bottom of the ad, it says thousands of items, only $3 million left to sell. Bud says that is misleading to the public because the old store is not selling off its $500,000 furniture inventory. They're bringing in new furniture to make $3 million in sales. That is correct, according to Walt Shawweaker of Sales Results Incorporated out of Chicago, which is handling the liquidation sale for the old store.
It's not a going out of business sale, as where you're simply liquidating the merchandise on hand. This is a sale to generate funds and profit to pay the creditors, as well as offering very good values to the people of Oklahoma City. but it is very specifically provided again in the court order.
The advertising would not be misleading to Sales Results Incorporated because their contract defines inventory as furniture currently in stock as well as furniture to be brought in for the sale. Now, they only have 180 days to complete the sale according to the court order. Then responsibility goes back to Denton and Flutie for the property. Bud Mathis will have to deal with them again. But he feels they could have held that liquidation sale at another building they own and given his property back, as his lease states. He says under bankruptcy, his lease is worthless and his ownership ignored.